Welcome back, and we're here with Jeannie Kim one more time, and it's time where we turn the tables around, and she gets to take over the show and ask me 3 questions. And I can't promise I'll answer them, but at least you'll get a response. So, Jeannie, it's all yours.
Wow. I'm really anxious to read your book, by the way. So maybe we can work something out and have you do a little book signing tour here in San Francisco. I think that would be really fun. And I know you work with many organizations. So I always feel like I'm learning something from you every time we get together. So I think for me, I would just love to hear from you because, you deal with a lot of leaders. What are the biggest challenges that leaders are facing in this time, in age right now, with so much going on, right? There's just uncertainty in politics and, culture, all of that. What do you see people struggle with, right now?
Oh, that's a great question, because I think we mentioned it in our previous conversation, this idea of knowing yourself and knowing who you are, and thinking that you're in control and that you can control everything. And so what I think there's a couple of things that leaders are stumbling over right now. One is the idea that that change, I think change can be managed, but that change isn't in I can control it, so I don't have to change, or I can actually totally control the change. And I like what Todd Bolsinger in both of his books, but especially in his book about resilience, he talks about the fact that if you're not experiencing change, if you're not moving with change or managing change, you're not leading. And too often, even when we're brought into a situation where they say, oh, we want you to help us with change, and then those same people who bring you in are the biggest ones who are sabotaging your leadership, because they say they want to change, but they don't like it. And so I think that's one thing, is learning that that pushback that you get when you're doing your job as a leader, don't manage your performance by the pushback, manage it by the mission. Are you stepping closer and closer to what you say your business is about and what your purpose is in that business? So that's the one. I think it's a matter of understanding that change is hard and it's difficult and you're going to get pushback. And I see a lot of people that are just getting tired, and that fatigue of how do you keep yourself, and this is a self-awareness piece. How do you keep the energy that you need to keep going? And a big part of it is self-awareness and self-care, and knowing when the season to pour yourself out is and when the season to fill yourself up is. So those 2 things, I think leaders, and a part of it is self-awareness. Part of it is that resilience piece of knowing your mission. And I do think if you don't have a personal and an organizational purpose and mission that's crystal clear across the board, it's so easy to get off track and forget who you are and why you're changing.
And I think one of the things that I struggle with is, making decisions, doing what is good versus doing what is right. And how do you discern, as a leader in, working in a secular world, especially in how do others, or how do you train the leaders to make that discernment? I know that doesn't make sense, but it's I think for me, it's more of a struggle because, as a Christian, this is what I need to do, but I know this is the right thing to do as a business person, and so there's that struggle.
And I hear, and what I hear in your question is, I hear the judgment. We talked about this before. Judgment is what leaders get paid for. And knowing there's different models of judgment. And there's 2 things that come to mind here. One is a model of judgment where the decision-making process is just a moment. And that really, it's just a moment. So in the overall judgment process, you realize that all the work happens around that moment. And it's how you perceive things. And I'm using a model that's been put out there by a guy named Fred Harburg and David Morrison, and they're at Northwestern, and they talk about perception, synthesis, and action. And the decision point is between synthesis and action, but bringing it's what, so what, now what can be another way of putting it. And this idea of how do you bring all the information in? How do you synthesize or work that information to come up with like really good choices? And then you make the choice and you act based on your decision. So that's one. And we're working on a pretty cool, they have an assessment that helps executives understand their own judgment process and help get better at that. On the other side of that, my organization is called Into Wisdom. So wisdom is something I'm really curious about. And wisdom is often called good judgment. But what is the value piece? What makes it good? What makes a judgment good? So I think you have this one side, which is really kind of fact-based information. It's science. It's all those things. But all those things, what makes that good? Because all those are just facts. And I got into, there's a cool little YouTube channel called The Bible Project. And they have this videos around the wisdom literature and what is wisdom, and what is, like it says that they talk about God's wisdom and the world's wisdom and how God's wisdom is foolishness and all that. And I got to thinking about what is wisdom if it's not like, if you've got the different types of wisdom. And what they talk about is wisdom is our picture of what the world is supposed to be. Wisdom is like, that's what we're shooting for. That's what we're moving towards. It's the information that says, so when one worldly wisdom might be make all the money you can, another one might be become famous, all those things which are like our ideal state that we're shooting for. For me, I've got like two bumpers on the side of the road as I travel. One is that keeps me in the lane is science and scientific knowledge and fact-based stuff. The other side is what I would call biblical wisdom, or the life that I think is my perfect life. And those two things, as I walk, and I'm still learning about all this stuff, those are the things that always bounce off each other and keep me going in the right direction.
Wow, that's deep, John. I would love to talk to you more about that. So if you were to ask leaders, business leaders, of something we can do that will make an impact, in our society, what would that be? Like, what do you hope, whether you're in small business or large business, big corporation, all these leaders, other than, giving charitable donations, all that, what do you want to see happen, with leaders?
I would love to see leaders like have a reality-based approach to things, but always have I rose-colored glasses on reality. I don't know. It's where like, don't avoid the hard things, but do it with grace and kindness and being present. And it's don't forget about the future of your organization, because you can't make any impact if your organization goes under, and helping your people understand that, but also helping your people. And I've got a big push on what I call looking at your organization as a managed ecosystem, or as a farm or a garden. And that idea that the biggest, my purposely controversial statement is that the most important leadership competency is being a farmer, because farmers manage these. And it's not just when your organization is people, but it's not just people. It's also the processes, it's the resources, and it's all those relationships and how they interact. And as a farmer, you know what crop you're trying to grow, and all those things have to be managed and work together to get that crop. You need to anticipate the drought. You need to take a look at what the insects are doing. You need to look at the pH of your ground. All these things work together to produce what you want. And you've got to care for all those things compassionately. I grew up the son of an apple farmer's son. And if you want to know people who care about the land, who care about it, it's the hunters and the farmers who are doing the stuff that is sometimes make the hard decisions. And I guess that's going back, what do I want leaders to do? I want them to look at the hard reality of what's going on through the eyes of patience and kindness.
Mm.
So 3 wonderful questions. I appreciate that, Jeannie.
Great. Thank you so much. Like I said, I'm always learning, from you. So thank
I'm
you for
always,
that.
yeah, if we aren't learning, then we're not growing.
That's right. Amen to that.